Hello, welcome to Bible Study Time and welcome to my Quiet Time Bible Study. My Hebrew name is Ahava, and this is the time where I invite you to come and join me in the comfort of my prayer room. And I just want to say thank you to those of you who are returning to watch these videos, and hello to those of you who are new. This week we are going to be continuing with our read-along series through the book of Jasher, and we're going to continue reading through beginning in chapter number 16. But before I get into that, I just wanted to say thank you so much for your holiday wishes, and your lovely messages to me. I really appreciate it, and your emails. I don't really celebrate the New Year, the Gregorian New Year. When I mention the Gregorian New Year, that's the calendar that the majority of the world follow. I celebrate the Hebrew New Year, which actually occurs in the spring, and I'll keep you guys updated as to when that happens. And if you look at it from the perspective of the Most High Creator God, the springtime is when there's new birth, there's new beginnings, right? And so it makes sense that the calendar of the Most High Creator God would begin in the spring. That's the beginning of the Hebrew New Year. Also, I was able to go to some different gatherings in churches over the holidays. I think I mentioned in my previous video how I really enjoyed, me going back to a church that I frequented for many years. And so I also visited a Hebrew gathering. And so I thought I would just sort of mention to you the difference between the two. So the church that I attended, obviously I go to church on the Shabbat, right? I was raised in the Adventist church. And so where I live, there's not many other sort of Sabbath churches. So I did attend the Adventist church over the holidays, and I also attended a Hebrew gathering. And so on Sabbath, both of them were on Sabbath. And so the difference was, if you compare the difference between the two assemblies of, ecclesias, the body of Christ, right? The difference that I noticed is, of course, the Hebrew gathering that I attended was much longer, and they were just way more humble. Even with the praise and worship, it was more centered around worshiping the Most High rather than performing to the congregation. What I loved about the Hebrew gathering is that we focused heavily on the word of the Most High. Like, first they had like this men's reading where they literally read through the whole Bible for maybe an hour and a half throughout the year. Then they always recite the 10 Commandments on the Shabbat, and then they go into a Bible study. It's almost like, it's not like a sermon, it's not preaching at you. It's basically like a Bible study where you sit down and you go through the scriptures and you really unpack them for a few hours. If you contrast that to the other church that I went to, organized religion. And when I mention organized religion, I'm not saying that there's no organized religion in the Bible. There actually is a word for religion in the scriptures, and I may do a Bible study series on that. But the only religion that is in the Bible falls outside of organized religion. And that term, religion in the Hebrew, is used for people who follow Yahweh, the God of all gods, the God of all spirits. There's only one religion in the Bible. Okay? So when I'm referring to organized religion, I'm talking about different denominations of Christianity, Adventism, Pentecostals, Baptist, Mormons, and things of that nature. And so when I contrast it to the Hebrew gathering, which was a really deep, wonderful Bible study, and they did not scrimp on the scriptures, like they fleshed them out. And if someone had questions, they would stay there and talk about it and not sort of wash it over. So it was very meat heavy when it comes to the scriptures. When it comes to the organized church that I attended, which was an Adventist church, there was a lot of vain repetition when it comes to prayer. Like the prayers were so long. And, that is not in alignment with scripture, right? Scripture says, you pray in secret. And if you're praying publicly, it should not be long. And we see that with the prophet Elijah. So I found that to be a little bit annoying, right? But as I mentioned, I was raised in organized religion, so I'm very used to their format. There was that. And also, the praise and worship was more performance, which is something that I think isn't in many different types of organized religious groups, especially the modern ones. The praise and worship is very performance heavy, like they're performing as if they're in a concert, right? And it's just really doesn't seem genuine, if I'm being honest, right? And forgive me, Father, if I'm judging, but it just didn't seem genuine. And then the sermon, 30 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe one or two scriptures. I mean, I've been to sermons in organized religion where they use maybe 5 or 6, but literally they don't give you time to find the scriptures. They just breeze through super long prayers, just performance. It's almost, if I want to fill a gap in my life where I want to go somewhere, dress up and sit down and watch a concert, a free concert, I can just go to organized religion because that's what I get. I don't come away edified. So I just wanted to share that with you. If I do come across a gathering that I'm considering joining, I will share that with you. So with that being said, we are in 2024 of the Gregorian New Year. And so now let's get into our reading for today, which is from the complete 54 book Apocrypha, one of my newest Bible study tools. And I'm going to be reading through, beginning in page number, I can't read it without my glasses, 342. Like I said, we left off last week in chapter 15. So this week we are going to read through chapter 16, and I'll see how far we get. There's quite a lot to unpack. So as I mentioned, page 342, chapter 16, verse 1. At that time, Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, sent to all the neighboring kings to Nimrod, king of Shinar, who was then under his power, and Tidal, king of Goyim, and to Arioch, king of Elasar, with whom he made a covenant, saying, "Come up to me and assist me, that we may strike all the towns of Sodom and its inhabitants, for they have rebelled against me these 13 years. And these 4 kings went up with all their camps, about 800,000 men. And they went as they were, and struck every man they found in their road. And the 5 kings of Sodom and Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admah, Shemeber, king of Zeboim, Bera, king of Sodom, and Bersha, king of Gomorrah, and Bela, king of Zoar, went out to meet them, and they all joined together in the valley of Siddim. And these 9 kings made war in the valley of Siddim, and the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah were smitten before the kings of Elam. And the valley of Siddim was full of lime pits, and the kings of Elam pursued the kings of Sodom, and the king of Sodom fled with their camps and fell into the lime pits, and all that remained went to the mountain for safety. And the 5 kings of Elam came after them and pursued them to the gates of Sodom, and they took all that there was in Sodom, and they plundered all the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. And they also took Lot, Abram's brother's son, and his property, and they seized all the goods of the cities of Sodom. And they went away, and Eunuch, Abram's servant, who was in the battle, saw this, and told Abram all that the kings had done to the cities of Sodom, and that Lot was taken captive by them. And Abram heard this, and he rose up with about 318 men that were with him, And he pursued these kings that night and struck them. And they all fell before Abram and his men. And there was none remaining but the 4 kings who fled, and they each went his own way. And Abram recovered all the property of Sodom, and he recovered Lot and his property, his wives and his little ones, and all belonging to him, so that Lot lacked nothing. And when he returned from striking these kings, he and his men passed the valley of Siddim, where the kings had made war together. And Barak, king of Sodom, and the rest of his men that were with him, went out from the lime pits into which they had fallen to meet Abram and his men. And this name is hard to pronounce, so please excuse me. And Adonizedek, king of Jerusalem, the same was Shem, went out with his men to meet Abram and his people, with bread and wine, and they remained together in the valley of Melech. And Adonizedek blessed Abram, and Abram gave him a tenth from all that he had brought from the spoil of his enemies. For Adonizedek was a priest before God, and all the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah who were there with their servants approached Abram and begged of him to return them, their servants whom he had made captive, and to take to himself all the property. And Abram answered the kings of Sodom, saying, As the Lord lives, who created the heavens and the earth, and who redeemed my soul from all affliction, and who delivered me from my enemies this day, and gave them into my hand, I will not take anything belonging to you, that you may not boast tomorrow, saying, Abram became rich from our property that he saved. For the Lord my God, in whom I trust, said to me, You will lack nothing, for I will bless you in all the works of your hands. And now therefore, behold, here is all belonging to you. Take it and go. As the Lord lives, I will not take from you, from a living soul, down to a strap or thread, excepting the expense of the food of those who went out with me to battle, Anar, Ashal, and Mamre, they and their men, as well as those who had also remained to watch the baggage. They will take the portion of the spoil. And the kings of Sodom gave Abram according to all that he had said, and they pressed him to take of whatever he chose, but he would not. And he sent the kings of Sodom and the remainder of their men away. And he gave them orders about Lot, and they went to their respective places. And Lot, his brother's son, he also sent away with his property, and he went with them. And Lot returned to his home to Sodom, and Abram and his people returned to their home, to the plains of Mamre, which is Hebron. At that time the Lord appeared to Abram again in Hebron, and he said to him, Do not fear, your reward is very great before me. For I will not leave you until I will have multiplied you and blessed you and made your seed like the stars in the heavens, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And I will give to you your seed, and to your seed all these lands that you see with your eyes. I will give them to them for an inheritance forever. Only be strong, and do not fear. Walk before me and be perfect. And in the 78th year of the life of Abram, in the year Reu, the son of Peleg, died. And all the days of Reu were 239 years, and he died. And Sarai, the daughter of Haran, Abram's wife, was still barren in those days. She did not bear either son or daughter to Abram. And when she saw that she bore no children, she took her handmaid Hagar, whom Pharaoh had given her, and she gave her to her husband Abram for a wife. For Hagar learned all the ways of Sarai, and Sarai taught her. She was not in any way defiant in following her good ways. And Sarai said to Abram, Behold, here is my handmaid Hagar. Go to her, that she may bring out on my knees, that I may also obtain children through her. And at the end of 10 years of Abram's dwelling in the land of Canaan, which is the 85th year of Abram's life, Sarai gave Hagar to him. And Abram listened to the voice of his wife Sarai. And he took his handmaid Hagar, and Abram came to her, and she conceived. And when Hagar saw that she had conceived, she rejoiced greatly, and her mistress was despised in her eyes. And she said within herself, This can only be that I am better before God than my mistress Sarai. For all the days that my mistress has been with my Lord, she did not conceive, but the Lord has caused me in a short time to conceive by him. And when Sarai saw that Hagar had conceived by Abram, she was jealous of her handmaid. And Sarai said within herself, This is surely nothing else but that she must be better than I am. And Sarai said to Abram, My wrong be on you. For at the time when you prayed before the Lord for children, why did you not pray on account that the Lord should give me seed from you? And when I speak to Hagar in your presence, she despises my words because she has conceived, and you will say nothing to her. May the Lord judge between me and you for what you have done to me. And Abram said to Sarai, Behold, your handmaid is in your hands. Do to her as it may seem good in your eyes. And Sarai afflicted her, and Hagar fled from her to the wilderness. And the messenger of the Lord found her by a well in the place where she had fled. And he said to her, Do not fear, for I will multiply your seed, for you will bear a son, and you will call his name Ishmael. Now, then, return to your mistress Sarai, and submit yourself under her hands. And Hagar called the place of that well Bir Lahai Roi. It is between Kadesh and the wilderness of Bered. And Hagar returned to her master's house at that time. And at the end of the days, Hagar bore a son to Abram, and Abram called his name Ishmael. And Abram was 86 years old when he begot him. Moving on to chapter number 17. And in those days, in the 91st year of the life of Abram, the children of Chittim made war with the children of Tubal. For when the Lord had scattered the sons of men on the face of the earth, the children of Chittim went and embodied themselves in the plain of Canopia, and they built themselves cities there, and dwelt by the river Tibru. And the children of Tubal dwelt in Tuscana, and their boundaries reached the river Tibru, and the children of Tubal built a city in Tuscanan, and they called the name Sabinah, after the name of Sabinah, son of Tubal, their father, and they dwelt there to this day. And it was at that time that the children of Chittim made war with the children of Tubal, and the children of Tubal were smitten before the children of Chittim, and the children of Chittim caused 370 men to fall from the children of Tubal. And at that time the children of Tubal swore to the children of Chittim, saying, You will not intermarry among us, and no man will give his daughter to any of the sons of Chittim. For all the daughters of Tubal were attractive in those days, for no women were then found in the whole earth as attractive as the daughters of Tubal. And all who delighted in the beauty of women went to the daughters of Tubal and took wives from them. And the sons of men, kings and princes, who greatly delighted in the beauty of women, took wives in those days from the daughters of Tubal. And at the end of 3 years, after the children of Tubal had sworn to the children of Chittim not to give them to their daughters for wives, about 20 men of the children of Chittim went to take some of the daughters of Tubal, but they found none. For the children of Tubal kept their oaths not to intermarry with them, and they would not break their oaths. And in the days of the harvest of the children of Tubal, And in the days of the harvest, the children of Tubal went into their fields to get in their harvest. When the young men of Chittim assembled and went to the city of Sabinana, and each man took a young woman from the daughters of Tubal, and they came to their cities. And the children of Tubal heard of it, and they went to make war with them, and they could not prevail over them, for the mountain was exceedingly high from them. And when they saw they could not prevail over them, they returned to their land. And at the revolution of the year, the children of Tubal went and hired about 10,000 men from those cities that were near them, and they went to war with the children of Chittim. And the children of Tubal went to war with the children of Chittim to destroy their land and to distress them. And in this engagement, the children of Tubal prevailed over the children of Chittim. And the children of Chittim, seeing that they were greatly distressed, lifted up the children which they had had by the daughters of Tubal on the wall which had been built, to be before the eyes of the children of Tubal. And the children of Chittim said to them, have you come to make war with your own sons and daughters? And have we not been considered your flesh and bones from that time until now? And when the children of Tubal heard this, they ceased to make war with the children of Chittim, and they went away. And they returned to their cities. And the children of Chittim assembled at that time and built 2 cities by the sea. And they called one Pertu and the other one Arizah. And Abram, the son of Terah, was then 99 years old. At that time, the Lord appeared to him, and he said to him, I will make my covenant between me and you, and I will greatly multiply your seed. And this is the covenant which I make between me and you, that every male child is circumcised, you and your seed after you. At 8 days old, he will be circumcised. And this covenant will be in your flesh for a perpetual covenant. And now, therefore, your name will no longer be Abram, but Abraham. And your wife will no longer be called Sarai, but Sarah. For I will bless you both, and I will multiply your seed after you, that you will become a great nation, and kings will come from you. I'm going to wrap up in chapter 18, beginning in verse number 1. And Abraham rose and did all that God had ordered him. And he took the men of his household and those brought with his money, and he circumcised them as the Lord had commanded him. And there was not one, I'm just going to grab my light, it's getting a bit dark. And there was not one left whom he did not circumcise. And Abraham and his son Ishmael were circumcised in the flesh of foreskin. Ishmael was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. And in the 3rd day, Abram went out of his tent and sat at the door to enjoy the heat of the sun during the pain of his flesh. And the Lord appeared to him in the plain of Mamre and sent 3 of his ministering messengers to visit him. And he was sitting at the door of the tent, and he lifted his eyes and saw, and behold, 3 men were coming from a distance, and he rose up and ran to meet them, and he bowed down to them and brought them into his house. And he said to them, if I have now found favor in your sight, turn in and eat a morsel of bread. And he pressed them, and they turned in. And he gave them water, and they washed their feet. And he placed them under a tree at the door of the tent. And Abraham ran and took a calf, tender and good, and he hastened to kill it, and gave it to his servant Eleazar to dress. And Abraham came to Sarah in the tent, and he said to her, quickly, make ready 3 measures of fine meal, knead it, and make cakes to cover the pot containing the meat. And she did so. And Abraham hastened and brought before them butter and milk, beef and mutton, and gave it to them to eat before the flesh of the calf was sufficiently done, and they ate. And when they had finished eating, one of them said to him, I will return to you according to the time of your life, and your wife Sarah will have a son. And afterward the men departed and went their ways to the places to which they were sent. In those days, all the people of Sodom and Gomorrah and of the whole 5 cities were exceedingly wicked and sinful against the Lord. And they provoked the Lord with their abominations, and they strengthened in aging abominably and scornfully before the Lord. And their wickedness and crimes were great before the Lord in those days. And they had a very extensive valley in their land, about a half day's walk. And in it there were fountains of water and a great deal of herbage surrounding the water. And all the people of Sodom and Gomorrah went there 4 times in the year, and their wives and children and all belonging to them, and they rejoiced there with timbrels and dances. And in the time of rejoicing they would all rise and lay hold of their neighbors' wives, and some the virgin daughters of their neighbors, and they enjoyed them. And each man saw his wife and daughter in the hands of his neighbor, and did not say a word. And they did so from morning to night, and afterward they returned home, each man to his house, and each woman to her tent. So they always did 4 times in the year. Also, when a stranger came into their cities and brought goods which he had purchased with a view to dispose of there, the people of these cities would assemble, men, women, and children, young and old, and go to the man and take his goods by force, giving a little to each man, until there was an end to all the goods of the owner which he had brought into the land. And if the owner of the goods quarreled with them, saying, "What is this work which you have done to me?" then they would approach toward him one by one, and each would show him the little which he took, and taunt him, saying, "I only took that little which you gave me." And when he heard this from them all, he would arise and go from them in sorrow and bitterness of soul, when they would all arise and go after him, and drive him out of the city with great noise and tumult. And there was a man from the country of Elam, who was leisurely going on the road, seated on his donkey, which carried a fine mantle of varying colors, and the mantle was bound with a cord on the donkey. And the man was on his journey, passing through the street of Sodom, when the sun set in the evening, and he remained there in order to abide during the night, but no one would let him into his house. And at that time there was a wicked and mischievous man in Sodom, one skillful to do evil, and his name was Dad. And he lifted his eyes up and saw the traveler in the street of the city, and he came to him and said, "From where do you come, and to where do you go?" And the man said to him, "I am traveling from Hebron to Elam, where I belong. And as I passed the sunset, and no one would permit me to enter his house, though I had bread and water, and also straw and provender for my donkey, and am short of nothing." And Dad answered him and said to him, "All that you will want will be supplied by me, but you will not abide in the street all night." And Dad brought him to his house, and he took off the mantle from the donkey with the cord, and brought them to his house. And he gave the donkey straw and provender, while the traveler ate and drank in Dad's house. And he stayed there that night. And in the morning the traveler rose up early to continue his journey. When Dad said to him, "Wait, comfort your heart with a morsel of bread, and then go." And the man did so, and he remained with him. And they both ate and drank together during the day. When the man arose to go, and Dad said to him, "Behold, now the day is declining. You had better remain all night, that your heart may be comforted." And he pressed him so that he tarried there all night. And on the second day he arose up early to go away. When Dad pressed him, saying, "Comfort your heart with a morsel of bread, and then go." And he remained and ate with him also the second day. And then the man rose up to continue his journey. And Dad said to him, "Behold, now the day is declining. Remain with me to comfort your heart, and in the morning rise up early and go your way." And the man would not remain, but rose and saddled his donkey. And while he was saddling his donkey, the wife of Dad said to her husband, "Behold, this man has remained with us for 2 days, eating and drinking, and he has given us nothing. And now he will go away from us without giving anything. And Hedad said to her, be silent. And the man saddled his donkey to go, and he asked Hedad to give him the cord and mantle to tie it on the donkey. And Hedad said to him, what did you say? And he said to him, that you, my lord, will give me the cord and the mantle made with varying colors, which you concealed with you in your house to take care of it. And Hedad answered the man, saying, this is the interpretation of your dream. The cord which you saw means that your life will be lengthened out like a cord. And having seen the mantle colored with all sorts of colors means that you will have a vineyard in which you will plant trees of all fruits. And the traveler answered, saying, not so, my lord, for I was awake when I gave you the cord and also the mantle woven with different colors, which you took off the donkey to put away from me. And Hedad answered him and said, surely I have told you the interpretation of your dream, and it is a good dream, and this is the interpretation thereof. Now the sons of men give me 4 pieces of silver, which is my charge for interpreting dreams. And of you only I require 3 pieces of silver. And the man was provoked at the words of Hedad, and he cried bitterly, and he brought Hedad to Sirach, judge of Sodom. And the man laid his cause before Sirach the judge, and Hedad replied, saying, it is not so, but thus the matter stands. And the judge said to the traveler, this man Hedad tells the truth, for he is famed in the cities for the accurate interpretations of dreams. And the man cried at the word of the judge, and he said, not so, my lord, for it was in the day that I gave him the cord and mantle which was on the donkey, in order to put them away in his house. And they both disputed before the judge, the one saying, thus the matter was, and the other declaring otherwise. And Hedad said to the man, give me 4 pieces of silver that I charge for my interpretations of dreams. I will not make any allowance, and give me the expense of the 4 meals that you ate at my house. And the man said to Hedad, truly I will pay you for what I ate in your house, only give me the cord and mantle which you concealed in your house. And Hedad replied before the judge and said to the man, did I not tell you the interpretation of your dream? The cord means that your days will be prolonged like a cord, and the mantle that you will have a vineyard in which you will plant all kinds of fruit trees. This is the proper interpretation of your dream. Now give me the 4 pieces of silver that I require as a compensation, for I will make you no allowance. And the man cried at the words of Hedad, and they both quarreled before the judge. And the judge gave orders to his servants, who drove them rashly from the house. And they went away quarreling from the judge. When the people of Sodom heard them, and they gathered around them, and they exclaimed against the stranger, and they drove him rashly from the city. And the man continued his journey on his donkey with bitterness of soul, lamenting and weeping. And while he was going along, he wept at what had happened to him in the corrupt city of Sodom. And that brings me to the end of chapter 18 and to the end of our reading for today. And I'm so grateful to the Most High Creator God for this wonderful holiday season, because I'm not working, and I really needed a rest because my schedule is so packed. And in the new year, I do have some wonderful things surrounding YouTube coming up, you know, God willing, and I will share the details with you closer to the time. I'm also so grateful to the Most High Creator God for my beautiful family, my mother-in-law, my mother, my daughter, my husband, my brothers, their spouses, and my sister-in-law, and her children, and her partner. I'm just so grateful. I really enjoyed spending so much time with them. I also am so grateful for you guys for liking and sharing the videos. As many of you know, I don't have donations on my channel. This channel is strictly to promote the word of the Most High Creator God. And so all I ask you to do is to like and share, and hopefully maybe we can plant a seed in someone that this book, the Holy Hebrew Bible, is worth reading. And then the Holy Spirit through Ruach HaKodesh can do the rest. I want to thank you guys once again for, clicking on this video today. I know I say it often, but it really does blow my mind how many subscribers that I do have. And before I say goodbye, I want to remind you that the Most High Creator God of the universe loves all of his children.